Hello everyone, it's me Clayton. I just finished watching Cocaine Bear, based on a true story that happened in a Georgia forest, starring Ray Liotta, Kerry Russell, and O'Shea Jackson, and directed by Elizabeth Banks. Now, the actual story of the Cocaine Bear is a bear eating millions of dollars worth of cocaine and dying of an overdose. But this Hollywood adaptation adapts that story into basically a very loosely based version where the bear goes on a completely drug fueled rampage and we get bodies galore and some absolutely hilarious comedy to go along with it. But let's get to the story, shall we? The story takes place in a Georgia forest after a ton of cocaine is smuggled into the United States. And when the police find a drug dealer who died while he was high on his own supply. Unfortunately, a bear within the Georgia forest happens to find the cocaine and ingests it, which just increases its already apparent bloodlust. And so we follow several characters as they have their own little side stories that eventually converge into each other, which includes Ray Liotta as this cocaine kingpin who has to salvage whatever coke he can while his henchmen try to find the duffel bags full of cocaine that have been left in the forest. But that's all I'll say about the story without spoiling anything. The Cocaine Bear story here is basically just an excuse for the bear to go around killing the various people around him, getting us higher and higher, and basically going on a rampage through the entire forest, while also providing as many humorous and gory moments as possible. And they do not skimp out when it comes to the blood. You see bears eating people's intestines. You see limbs flying all over the place. You see some genuinely CGI blood, but even then, the kills are often so freaking ridiculous that I don't even mind the effects being a little dodgy every now and then. Especially since the bear sometimes does look like it's genuinely there, and because the bear is actually characterized pretty well with no dialogue and just the way that it moves around and the way that it attacks people. I also like the fact that all the actors know what kind of film they're in and basically just play it as goofy as possible or as straight as possible, especially Ray Liotta, who feels like he could have been a drug kingpin in a different movie entirely, which makes sense as he was a big part of what made Goodfellas so great. But there's plenty of set pieces in the film to help you realize that the filmmakers know how ridiculous the film is, and they aren't even remotely taking part of it seriously. And that's especially seen in the scene where the bear attacks people in an ambulance, a scene where a bunch of bear cubs attack a guy, scenes that involve the kids trying two child actors trying out cocaine. Yeah, child actors in these kinds of films usually range from decent to absolutely terrible. But these two kids that they get for this film actually manage to be very entertaining throughout. They happen to basically join in on the R-rated antics, but they still do it while still feeling like believable kids who just get into trouble every now and then. And on top of that, while some of the side stories do detract from Cocaine Bear's presence, and some of them do cause there to be decent stretches of the film without any gore and without any crazy drug-fueled antics. But I actually got into some of the side stories, and I actually got to care about some of the characters, even if some of them were just red shirt fodder for the bear to take down. It's not a perfect film by any means. When some of its stretches do have some moments that drag, and when it comes to the ending, which feels like it doesn't go far enough in its own ridiculousness. But what the film gets right, it gets very right. And if they're planning on making more of these types of films, I definitely would not be opposed to that. That's why I'm going to give Cocaine Bear an 8 out of 10. See you next time.